broader consultation. Now, according to NAGRAT, none of the teacher unions have been engaged on the proposal thus far. The association also describes as unfortunate the indication from the Minister of Education, Dr. Yao Osei-Educhum, to decouple junior high school from primary school and also cancel the Basic Education Certificate Examination BCE as a precondition for gaining admission to the senior high school. In a statement issued July 3, 2024, the association is therefore demanding that government suspends the presentation of the free SHS bill to Parliament to allow for broader consultation. Right, so we'll be having a conversation with NAGRAT shortly on this particular development, as and when we are able to raise them, we'll get into why they are asking for the Education Minister to rescind the decision to present the free SHS bill to Parliament. They say they were not consulted, but we'll get to understand the details of their call. But still in education, Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Dr. Eric Nkansa, has announced the recruitment of the first batch of the 2022 degree holders from colleges of education into various basic schools in the country. Earlier this year, the Ghana Education Service received clearance from the Ministry of Finance to recruit the 2022 batch of trained teachers who graduated from public colleges of education across the country. At a press engagement, Director General of the GES, Dr. Eric Nkansa, disclosed that a self-posting system has been introduced to allow the 12,784 newly recruited teachers select their preferred region, district, and school of choice.
Public colleges of education who applied for the recruitment via the GES promotions platform and satisfied all the requirements should visit the portal from 5th July to 31st July to select their preferred region, district, and school. The self-posting recruitment model has a benefit of getting the newly trained teachers to be posted to regions where language would not be a barrier. Thus, they can speak the local language wherever they choose to teach. And we know that would create a very effective teaching and learning environment. In addition, ladies and gentlemen, the teachers get to also select schools that are close to families and subsequently enjoy the economic support that is so needed. The steps that they need to follow to be able to access the platform and also to select the school of their choice is that one, they visit the GES promotions platform, the same platform they use in the application. They go back there, enter their college index number to verify their qualification. 3, enter your phone number. So your phone number and your NTC number. That presupposes that before you qualify, you must have written the NTC exam, the licensure, and passed. So your NTC number and your phone number must be entered. We'll be doing a demonstration here for you to see so that you can report accurately. This is crucial, since if you don't do that, it will be very difficult for you to be validated and for you to be successful in your application.
Right, so from education, government ministries, departments and agencies remain closed as the strike by the Civil and Local Government Staff Association Ghana CLOGSAG enters day 2 today. Now, the staff are livid over what they say is the government's failure to implement a new salary structure agreed upon since 2021. Now, yesterday, they boycotted a meeting with the National Labour Commission, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, and the Ministries of Finance, Unemployment and Labour Relations. Now, their strike has since brought work at the various MMDAs to a halt since members have refused to go to work. But there's more in the following report.
The ongoing strike is significantly affecting government operations, as most offices visited earlier have been deserted by members of the association. The members who did not show up for work subsequently failed to appear for a meeting called by the National Labour Commission on Wednesday. Following a lengthy wait of nearly an hour without any representatives from CLOGSAG present, the meeting was adjourned to a later date.
Yes, a meeting was scheduled today at 2 p.m. between CLOGSAG, the ministries, and other stakeholders. Yes. CLOGSAG couldn't turn up for that meeting, so we've waited for next week, Wednesday, same time, for us to gather here. That is why we have to gather here and have it discussed. Yes. Well, it's a meeting that we have to address their concerns with. So this is not the first time that we are meeting on that issue. I think an MOU was signed somewhere last 2 years back then. So we need to meet on the round table and have the issues addressed. So they have a concern. Otherwise, we wouldn't have pended our signature on the MOU.
The Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission characterized the absence of the Civil and Local Government Staff Association Ghana, CLOGSAG, as contemptuous to the Commission, implying a deliberate disregard for its authority.
It's an unfortunate development, and I think that is contemptuous of the Commission. They were the first to write to us that certain agreements or understanding reached between themselves and government, led by the senior presidential advisor, Honorable Safumafo, and with the Ministry of Employment, Labour Relations, Ministry of Finance, have not been implemented. Then that is to do with the new salary structure they are asking for. And that having agreed on something as far back as 2022 to begin in 2023, and now we are in the middle of 2024, if nothing was done, they were going to proceed on strike.
Sure. Attempts to contact CLOGSAG to determine the reason behind their absence have been unsuccessful. However, a new meeting date has been scheduled for Wednesday, July 10th, 2024.
All right, so let's go back to our earlier story on NAGRAT and the calls they are making on the Education Minister on the Free SHS bill. Michael Ayuraboya is General Secretary for the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, and he has joined me via Zoom. So thank you so much for your time. What really are your concerns with the bill?
Thank you very much, my brother, and good morning to the good people of Ghana. Our concern basically is that we have not been consulted in the drafting of this bill. As key stakeholders of education, we expected that there should have been a discussion with us so that for us to know what the issues really are that we need to legislate. And so it took us by surprise when we heard that the bill was on its way to Parliament and later on said it was before the cabinet. And so our issue basically is that we have not been consulted, and we ought to be consulted because we are major stakeholders in this matter.
And as it stands now, so have you seen the bill and you have concerns with how it was drafted, or it is solely because you were not consulted?
We haven't seen the bill. We don't know the content of the bill. So we contest the fact that if indeed there is a bill that is in existence, we do not associate ourselves to the content of that bill. The second aspect of it that we do not even understand why there should even be a bill in the first place. So they should have consulted us to make us understand what we are going to legislate. You will agree with me if you have taken a look at the Pre-Tertiary Education Bill Act 2020. It has been provided for by law. Free senior school has been provided for. So what are we legislating? As far as we are concerned, we haven't even seen the LI for that act. So for us, we thought that we could have had a discussion, and then if we see where the problems are, what the issues are that we ought to legislate, then we can move from there. They can take our inputs, and then we can move everybody along. There are several stakeholders. We are just not the only ones. A lot of the schools are under missions. They have not been consulted either. We have agreed as a nation that the schools are also under the care of the communities. The chiefs and elders of the various communities that where these schools are cited have not been consulted. So we think that government is hasting indecently, and they ought to slow down and allow us to. Because education is so important that we do not always have to be in a hurry using knee-jerk approach in taking decisions that affect education. And that is our concern.
And does it come as a surprise to you that all of this were not done, and then we only heard that the bill will be sent to Parliament?
Very much surprised, we must say. We are very much surprised about that. Because as we indicated in our release, the drafting of the Pre-Tertiary Education Act, the Education Regulatory Bodies Act, we were involved in the process. Even though all the issues that we would have wished were captured or were not captured, all the same, we had a say. We knew what was going to come. But for us to be surprised with a bill on free senior high school, we do not think that is a fair approach, because in the inception of this free senior high school program, teachers have really sacrificed. We have been at the receiving end of this policy. And if there is anything that you ought to be legislating, we should be in the know to see what are the issues in there that will affect us or otherwise.
And so far as it stands now, what are some of the concerns about free SHS that you have noted as NAGRAT, for which reason you believe that, well, when we have this dialogue, we'll be able to put these concerns across?
There are a lot, and I will not be able now to list all. But we have, if you have been following NAGRAT's position, from the inception of the program, we have asked for a review, because in every policy, things will be right, but there will also be things that will not be right. So we asked for a policy, a review of the policy, for us to right the wrong and affirm those right things that are in there. And this we haven't really had. And so for us, there's certainly a lot to talk about. The teachers have sacrificed us. We have barely had time, holidays for ourselves since the inception of this policy. Okay? The congestions in our classrooms and dormitories. There are a myriad of problems that beset the policy. Albeit the policy is good, we all admit.
Right.
And we are ready and willing, and that is what we have been doing, supporting government all this while.
Right.
So that if government now thinks that there are things to legislate, we ought to be involved in the process. And this is just fair. We are not asking for too much.
Very well. Michael, thank you so much for engaging with us. That's Michael Ayuraboya. He is General Secretary for NAGRAT. Now, a former director of the Ghana School of Law and private legal practitioner, Kodjo, says the request for additional justices at the Supreme Court is not convincing and unjustifiable. Now, it comes on the back of Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Isaba Tokono indicating that the Apex Court will need an additional 5 hands to make the number of justices 20. Now, she explained that the move is to augment the numbers considering the huge workload that the current number at the Supreme Court will have to deal with. But speaking on Morning Star with Francis Aban, the former GSL director believes that the additional numbers are unnecessary.
Justice by herself has no power to increase the number. So I would like to believe that the request emanated from the Judicial Council, of which the Chief Justice is chair. But having said that, I don't think the reasons assigned by the Lord Chief Justice are convincing. I would like to believe that the number keeps increasing. This year is an election year, and the objective conditions of the ground suggest that it could go either way. I should like to believe that any increase in the number of justices of the Supreme Court is an attempt to pack the court should the election go against the NPP, and therefore, should there be a challenge, then the number will be drawn from, and I believe, and stand to correction, that the panel will be drawn from the favorites. Mind you, those who are likely to be elevated must be favorites of one or the other person in power. I know that the GDA has issued a statement that in the court there's no NDC or NPP, but common sense will tell us that each time an incumbent government makes an appointment, the appointees suck up government. So we shouldn't run away from this, objective fact. It is an attempt to pack the court in December or January or March, when electoral petitions are being judicially considered by the apex court.
Well, we've been joined on Zoom by private legal practitioner Justice Abdullahi. Justice Abdullahi, thank you so much for joining us on Newsroom. So as it stands now, well, a lot of people have expressed concerns about the Chief Justice's letter to the President nominating 5 more. They say the number is too much. What do you think?
Well, so I do not think that the concerns are really with regards to the numbers at the Supreme Court, because I'm of the opinion that we need minimum of 27 justices at the Supreme Court.
27?
And my position is that at least 2 must be, the Supreme Court should be sitting simultaneously with 2 different panels, considering the workload and all of that. Or there are other means of sharing, distributing cases, so that we can have maybe one panel sitting on constitutional matters and another panel sitting on appeal matters. This is my opinion because of the backlog and the sheer number of cases that go to the Supreme Court. So, in principle, my position remains the same, that having an increased number of at most 27 at the Supreme Court is the best way of dealing with our problem. However, if you're asking me about the timing of elevating other judges to the Supreme Court, I'll completely agree that the timing is completely wrong. Particularly when we have an unbridled pattern by the current government to appoint justices to the Supreme Court. In fact, the hierarchy of the court in general, not just the Supreme Court. It's kind of an unchecked authority or power of the current system of getting a lot of people there. So legally, they may be right, but if you look closely, you can see the mischief behind the continuous appointment of persons to the Supreme Court. And as my senior Secretary pointed out, it then feeds into the mind of the onlooker that something mischievous is intended to be achieved,
right,
politically or otherwise. And that is not what we need as a country.
So it does not send the right signal. That's what you say, looking at the fact that we have about 5 months to the general elections. Right. Now, what about the propriety of the Chief Justice suggesting these nominees to the President? Because per the law, the explanation is that it is the President who is supposed to do the appointment with consultation, by consulting these other bodies. Now, the Chief Justice rather now nominating the people to the President and suggesting that to the President.
I would like to see that as a proposal, and that is how the letter on social media actually suggests that it's a proposal from the CJ's office to the President. It's a bit of a misnomer to me. It's a misnomer. It's a complete departure from what we are used to. Either to the proposal would rather come from the President. It goes after all the consultations, and then it goes to the Judicial Council where the deliberations will take place, and then the reference is made to Parliament after the approval is sought and obtained, and then Parliament then does its vetting. But this appears to be a different approach, and I've read the social media report, and I've seen the authorities cited by that letter, and I'm still not convinced that it's the appropriate thing to do.
Right. That's right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Justice Abdullahi, for your time on a newsroom this morning. Now, let's do some other stories. Let me take you to Parliament because former Deputy Trade Minister and Member of Parliament for Cape Coast South, George Ricketts-Hagen, has described Minister of Trade and Industry, Katie Hammond, as a disaster. Now, it follows yesterday's banter in Parliament with the Speaker, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin, advising that the controversial legislative instrument on cement price regulation be withdrawn after former Minority Leader Haruna Iddrisu raised issues of constitutionality with the LI and the Ghana Standard Authority Act 2022 at 1078 Section 80. Now, reacting to the developments on GH today, Ricketts-Hagen described Katie Hammond as a disaster, since in his estimation, the challenge with cement pricing is largely due to the exchange rate.
He's actually got a clue as to how to manage trade and industry activities in this country. And it's for that reason that I said I think he's been a disaster, you know, not as a person, but I'm talking about disaster in terms of his management of the Trade and Industry Ministry. Now, the issue, as you said, prices of cement are high, pretty much like everything. I mean, prices of tomatoes are high. So are we going to have an LI, you know, for tomatoes as well, being next? The issue with cement, obviously, if you look at something simple should tell you what is going on there. And I know there are professionals within the Ministry of Trade and Industry who should be able to advise him. I mean, he doesn't need to know everything, but there are professionals, technocrats there who should be able to tell him. If you look at the price of cement, say over the last 10 years, it's been going up basically astronomically.
Yeah.
It's now pretty much in the last few years been exponential, you know, type of growth in CD terms. Now, when you look at the same cement prices, that is at each price point, say if in the last 10 years, and you look at the exchange rate at that time and convert those prices to dollars, you realize that the price of cement in dollar terms has been pretty much a straight line. That tells you clearly that what is happening is to do with the exchange rate. So if your exchange rate or your CD is depreciating against the dollar, and the price of cement in dollar terms is not actually going up, then of course a major issue you have there is to do with the exchange rate.
While still speaking on GH today, Deputy Minister of Sanitation and Water Resources Alhaji Amidu Chinia Isahaku is backing calls for the LI on cement price regulation to be withdrawn for further consultation. He contends once there seems to be some conflict with the existing Ghana Standards Authority law, it will be prudent to ensure all loopholes are plugged.
A new policy or a new regulation or a new law or a new bill, sometimes you may not pay attention to certain necessaries that people may draw your attention to. And when it happens that way, it is important for you to listen. I to a large extent, was convinced by the contribution of the Honorable former Minority Leader, which he just mentioned about the parent law conflicting with the current LI. And I think that the Minister for Trade and his advisors will have to relook at it, because we should not make a law that cannot stand the test of time or that can be contested in court and nullified. It belittles Parliament. I mean, you can't have 275 members of Parliament representing constituencies and a speaker and a whole gamut of staff, and we make a law, and in a very short period, it is found out that that law is illegal or doesn't conform with. It will be an insult and a manner of our reputation. And so I quite agree that there should be further engagement. And if that is clearly established that this LI will contravene the parent law of the Standard Authority Act, then it is worth being withdrawn and probably some amendments being made, because you can't.
Now, flag bearer aspirant of the People's National Convention, Bernard Mona, is accusing government of escalating the cost of building with a proposed ally on cement price regulation. He opines that the remedy to the escalating pricing of cement is for government to establish a manufacturing firm which will serve as a benchmark for pricing of cement.
We can make a moral suasion to the cement manufacturers. Otherwise, then the state should invest in producing its own cement. Whereby if the state had its own cement producing company, the state then can decide that its cement will be lower. And if the state cement were lower, that will compel the other players to now also reduce their prices, because if you don't reduce your prices, these ones will be bought. This is what a minister that thinks should be doing. That in view of the fact that all the cement productions are in private hands, that is the reason why we are reaching catastrophic levels in prices. So I urge Mr. President and the government, let's go into ensuring that we also establish a cement producing company.
You're still watching news from right here on GHOne television with me, Joshua Kodjo Mensah. Now, the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, has warned the recent phenomenon of citizens filing suits against the passage of bills or the work of Parliament will render the legislature useless. Currently, Richard Sky and Amanda Odua are at the Supreme Court seeking to injunct Parliament from transmitting the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill to President Akufo-Addo. Alban Bagbin revealed he has been inundated with suits seeking to stop Parliament from undertaking its legitimate duties. Now, though the Speaker said his comments are without prejudice to the ongoing Supreme Court hearings, he urged MPs to pay serious attention to the development lest they lose their relevance.
There is no business for anybody, including the courts, to consider. Because the Constitution and the enabling legislation takes care of all these challenges. Until it is a law, it is assented to by the President, judiciary has no jurisdiction to try. This is notice. We have to take this seriously, or else our legislative authority is being taken away from us by other agencies and arms of government that should be resisted by this House, or else your being here is of no consequence. The law is very clear on this. And so until a bill is assented to by the President, nobody has any business to take that process that is being considered by the House to the court. And I don't want to preempt the judgment of the Supreme Court in this matter. But I'm giving notice because on daily basis, I'm being served with writs as a party on matters that are being considered by the House. That's why I'm compelled to say these things. And so please, I know that the former minority leader just say he will exploit, but he will not proceed to do so. I know that. Yes, chair of the lesson, yes.
Right Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. I wanted to...
Now, it's some 5 months to the general elections in December, and the National Peace Council is worried about the high number of conflicts across the country. According to the NPC, there are currently 703 cases of conflicts in the country, which is not good as the country prepares for the crucial elections in December. Chairman of the Council, Reverend Dr. Ernest Edujimfi, is therefore calling on political actors to embrace peace. He was speaking at an inter-party dialogue on election violence mitigation ahead of the 2024 elections here in Accra.
Engagement with different categories of leadership of the political parties since June 2021. I would like to bring to your attention that at our last review meeting with all our regional secretaries yesterday, the total number of cases being handled by the National Peace Council has moved from 298 as at January 2024 to 703 cases. Apart from the Bolton region whose cases have dropped by 2, and Eastern region that dropped by 1, all the other regions have had cases escalating. We're yet to conclude on the number of cases in the Northern region. It is expected that the total number of cases is likely to go beyond the 703 agreed on yesterday, after the Northern region review. These reported cases are aside the daily political tension and occurrences. As part of the process of building trust among the political parties, a political party trust building platform was created by the National Peace Council for the parties to meet regularly to discuss issues of concern.
Now, 100 young adults and children have benefited from a free dental screening at a shelter for abused orphans in Labone. This was organized by non-governmental organization Chava Foundation. Now, according to the founder, Beverly Asamoah Jekti, the gesture is expected to give opportunity to children and young adults who may not have the means to pay for dental screening. The report has more.
Health is an essential part of our overall health and well-being. Poor oral hygiene can lead to dental cavities and gum disease, and has also been linked to heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. Therefore, seeing a dentist for a regular exam and checkup is the best way to catch any problem before it gets worse. Non-governmental organization Chava Foundation is, however, dedicated to supporting orphans living with HIV and special needs with access to good oral hygiene. Beverly Asamoah Jekti is the founder and CEO of Chava Foundation.
You know their charcoal
toothpaste. So she came to our aid to help us to
come in.
Program for the children today, and we are having a free health screening for over 150 children here. There are 100 of them who have never been to a dentist before, and we have the kind courtesy and sponsorship of Enterprise Insurance and Dr. Jonathan Nikwe, who have taken today been a day to be here to help clean, extract, everything oral health. Also educate them about oral health as well.
One of the adults who benefited from the exercise expresses her gratitude.
And I would like to say a very big thank you to Chava Foundation for taking us through cleaning of our teeth by a dentist. And I also like to say that this school is open to everyone who would like to also help and then support us in any way.
Thank you so much for staying on with us. Let's bring you business. And in business, Deputy Minister of Communications and Digitalization, Charles Echampon, says the prioritization of data governance is crucial to the success of the government's digitalization agenda. Speaking during the launch of the new Neutral Data Center, Deputy Minister of Communications and Digitalization said government investment in IT systems and technologies would best maximize the use of data by unlocking its potential, promoting data sharing and reuse for the public good.
The new Parks Data Center is designed to meet the growing demands of businesses and organizations seeking reliable and efficient data management solutions. The facility boasts of ample power capacity and a wide range of connectivity options, ensuring seamless operations and robust data handling capacities. Deputy Minister of Communications and Digitalization, Charles Echampon, while speaking at the launch, said the new data center feeds into government's digital drive.
These are very exciting times for the communication sector in Ghana. The ministry is championing government's digital agenda to ensure that Ghana participates fully in this fourth industrial revolution. Cabinet has recently approved the digital economy policy with 5 prioritized thematic areas to enable the ministry to track the digital journey in Ghana. These areas are universal access and connectivity, digital government, digital skills, data and emerging technologies, digital entrepreneurship.
Managing Director of Parks Data Centers, Bright Teria, expressed his excitement about the new facility's potential to drive digital transformation in Ghana.
Digitization has become the order of the day. This means that we're going to generate a lot of data in the country. And generation means that we need a how our facility to store this data. And that is why we did the expansion. But we don't want to wait for the D-Day when data has become a lot in the system and then we don't have data centers to store them. So we have taken the initiative to increase the capacity that we have, and we've done the expansion whilst we wait for the digitization agenda where a lot of data will be generated in the country.
Chairman of Parks, Raza Hasnani, also disclosed that the over $30 million equity investment in park data centers is part of a broader strategy to create the connectivity required to accelerate Africa's digital transformation.
I don't know who says that we have enough capacity. We do not. There is enough need for data centers for many more to be built. And also remember, a data center like PAX is not just like a company having data in-house. This is much more sophisticated. There are multiple systems, fire suppression systems, electricity backup systems, business continuity systems, which completely separate a switching room in a company from a data center. So I think there is much more room to expand.
The park data centers is expected to attract diverse range of clients, including financial institutions, healthcare providers, government agencies, and tech startups, all seeking to leverage advanced data infrastructure to gain a competitive edge.
Now to some more business stories. Minister for Housing Kodjo has lamented the significant deficit of over 1.8 million in the housing sector. According to him, this situation has resulted in landlords exploiting Ghanaians by charging exorbitant prices for their property, thereby rendering living conditions unbearable. He therefore urged pension funds and other stakeholders to collaborate effectively with the government to address this issue decisively by putting up more housing units to make up for the gap.
One of the key instruments that we will need is the pension funds. So we deem it important that you are here and are a part of the solutions that we are pushing. On the housing front, housing supply, as was mentioned earlier, does not meet demand. We have a deficit of over 1.8 million units. And if you multiply that by the average of 3 persons per household, it tells you the millions of Ghanaians who do not have access to decent, affordable houses. And as a result, landlords and agents take us for granted on a daily basis. Government housing programs have been behind schedule. On other occasions, the failure to complete started projects upon changes in political administration has worsened the problem. The innovative rental assistance program introduced by the Vice President, His Excellency Dr. Baumia, requires more resources to make more impact nationwide. The mortgage market in Ghana remains very shallow and inaccessible to the majority of Ghanaians. The need to aggressively tackle the effects of climate change and high tides on our coastal community remains. And I can give
Now, the perpetual devastation caused by flooding in Ghana's major cities, particularly in Accra, is poised to become a relic of the past. Now, this development follows the government's establishment of the National Hydrological Fund, seeded with 1.5 million Ghana cedis, aimed at addressing this long-standing issue. The funds launched during the ongoing Built Environment National Conference on Housing and Hydrology in Accra, Minister of Works and Housing Kodjo again urged corporate entities, private individuals, and donor partners to contribute generously to the fund, thereby fueling its purpose and ultimately benefiting all Ghanaians.
On the hydro front, ladies and gentlemen, it has become imperative to complement the limited fiscal resources that are voted annually for Ghana's flood control and coastal protection programs. The Hydro Fund is one major vehicle that can help to crowd in resources to complement the annual budget resources to tackle our hydro needs as a country. Section 28E of the Act envisages that development partners and other entities interested in our hydro resilience will also contribute in funding the activities of the authority. Having established the administrative processes for the fund, and I want to thank the Controller and Accountant General who is here with us this morning for helping to make this happen, it is my pleasure to here today formally launch the Ghana Hydro Fund and invite all stakeholders, including our development partners and allied bodies, to contribute to the fund and enable it fuel the operations of the Ghana Hydro Authority. Let us not pay lip service to the challenge of floods and sea erosion. Rather, let us follow our words with our money. Government, through the Ministry of Works and Housing, has prioritized an allocation of 1.5 million Ghana cedis as seed money for the fund, which we'll be handing over to the authority this morning.
And that's it for the business news. Right, so you heard Fifi Kwete, who is the General Secretary of the NDC. It's time to bring you the latest in the world of sports. And on that note, to wrap up the bulletin right here on Newsroom on GHOne Television, there's more news for you at starfm.com.gh. I am Joshua Kodjo Mensah. Enjoy your lunch.